p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We are nearly done for the day, but we're just anticipating the arrival of Sir Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions when we'll hand over to Tom.
Of course you could. The opposition leader could talk about the small boats crossing the channel, but the response from the Prime Minister is, well, you didn't do much better when you were in power. So I think that would be not a very productive use. If she goes on the economy, inflation has fallen, which is good news.
Yeah.
But unemployment has risen every month.
Yes, I think unemployment's
got into power.
It's a shame that the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy is not published till tomorrow, because I suspect that it will be fairly inadequate and not up to the scale of the task. I might be wrong, but I think that the Labour Party will find it very difficult to talk about the real drivers behind child sexual abuse, and so I wonder if it'll just be a little bit more platitudes. Well, immigration is a big factor. I mean, some of the countries that people have immigrated here from have massive child sexual abuse problems themselves. The spread of internet pornography, child pornography that we're not tackling at the moment at all. Some step-parent abuse, that seems to be a problem with increasing family breakdown. Lack of fathers, particularly, who often protect girls against being sexually abused. So there's a lot of very difficult things to talk about, but I suspect Labour won't have the stomach for it.
No, the Prime Minister is taking his seat on the front bench. It is the she's not Work and Pension Secretary now, is she? What is she, Liz Kendall? I can't remember.
My computer's out of battery, I can't even Google it.
Remember, but she is, in every Labour survey of party members, the least popular cabinet minister.
Is that correct?
Because she's associated with the benefits cut, which was doomed last year.
U-turn.
She had to take it through the Commons, even though it was dictated by Robert Reeves, the Chancellor.
Have you got a nickname for every front bencher, Andrew?
Yes, she is Robert Reeves. Well, I'm not. Apparently, we don't like calling her Rachel from accounts because that's very sexist.
Is it? Do you have to be a woman to work in accounts?
Yeah. Well, but that was the great line by Lily Anderson.
I would say it's insulting. I wouldn't say it's sexist.
Yeah. No, but I think Robert Reeves is all right.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Keir Starmer, last one before Christmas.
Yeah.
I wonder if there'll be any kind
relieved, won't he?
Yeah. I wonder if there'll be any light-heartedness or any jesting. I don't expect anybody's bought Keir Starmer a mug like we've been bought these beautiful mugs from Stephen Platt. Well, Nigel Farage apparently has tweeted that PMQs is going to be rigged. Of course, sometimes, because the selection of which MPs gets to ask a question is random.
So he's going to sit in the public gallery, he's not going to be in the chamber, even though he'd obviously want to ask questions about the surge in migrants crossing the channel today.
Well,
but he's the leader of a party of only 5.
True.
Which means he only gets called occasionally.
And he could bob like everybody else. So if you're not on the list, you can still stand up and down each question and try to catch the speaker's eye.
Yeah.
And you've got a chance of getting in. He could do that.
Yeah. But as you know, the speaker will know exactly when he was last called at PMQs.
That's true. So if he's asked a lot of questions, he will be pushed further down the list.
Yeah,
but nevertheless,
there are
it's worth a try.
Reform MPs, but I say, so if you became invaded, what would be your first question? It's going to be something about Christmas. Christmas Grinch.
Could be, couldn't it? I mean,
Christmas Grinch.
Although the inflation figures have fallen, food inflation is still pretty high, which is going to hit people hard over the Christmas period.
Food inflation has fallen, but prices are still going up. And the cost of living crisis is still difficult for people.
And as you said, the unemployment figures are worrying, and we also saw a downturn in the construction industry. Those figures were published last week, which often signals that a recession is on the way. That, of course, would be very bad news. She could go on that. But I agree, there's nothing really that stands out as
Well, she may go on the Erasmus deal. Is Brexit being unpicked?
Yeah.
Because
right.
Labour will be nervous. We saw our own GBNews poll, 85% opposing it.
That's right. Yes, it's going to be a difficult one. Will she go for all 7 questions on the same topic, or will she intersperse different issues to try and catch him out?
Exactly. It's overrunning a bit too, isn't it, the questions? So that's the Secretary of State up again. We still haven't worked out what she's Secretary of State for.
And both of our computers are broken, and neither of us can Google it.
My Andrew Pierce's computer broken. Shock horror. No news, no revelation or surprise there.
Well, we all know what a whiz you are with technology, Andrew. I'm surprised you can't fix it yourself.
Bring back the feather, bring back the quill, bring back ink pots. I'd be very happy with that. I like my old typewriter.
Yes, must be something very satisfying about hitting those keys.
I used to wreck typewriters.
Really?
Because I was quite tough on them.
Writing in anger?
Yeah, but I can touch type. So here we are, Prime Minister's questions. We will leave you in the hands of Tom.
Question number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the anti-Semitic terror attack on Bondi Beach was sickening. It has had a profound impact around the world, including on Jewish communities here in the United Kingdom. These incidents are not isolated. We think of the appalling attack at Heaton Park earlier this year, and these incidents are chillingly focused on some of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. Mr. Speaker, I've been in touch over the last few days with the Community Security Trust, the Home Office and the Chief Rabbi about security for Hanukkah events here in the United Kingdom. Last night we held a Hanukkah reception in Downing Street where I reaffirmed our fight against the poison of anti-Semitism. We will use all of our powers to make sure Jewish communities are safe and secure as they should be. Mr. Speaker, may I also take this opportunity to wish you, all the staff in Parliament, every member and their families across the House a very happy Christmas, and a little festive advice to those in reform. If mysterious men from the East appear bearing gifts, this time report it to the police. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
The award.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I associate myself with the Prime Minister's condemnation of the horrific attacks in Australia. We must be clear that anti-Semitic terrorism is always an outrage. Mr. Speaker, at Christmas time, many across our country will be thinking of Bethlehem, where the situation remains extremely difficult. The government's important scheme for students from Gaza with scholarships to study in the UK expires on the 31st of December, but a number of scholarship holders and their children have not yet been permitted to leave Gaza. If this scheme closes, these brilliant Palestinians will lose their university places and we will lose their talent. Will the Prime Minister extend the UK's existing scheme into next year to prevent this from happening?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank her? And I know that Gazan students face huge challenges in taking up their places, and we're considering solutions for those yet to arrive. But I do want to be clear, I want them to be able to take up their places and continue their education in the United Kingdom. I'm proud we've also created the medical evacuation scheme for children from Gaza, and last week I met some of those who've been brought to the United Kingdom for specialist treatment in the NHS. Mr. Speaker, we continue to focus on aid into Gaza, and I'll make sure my honourable friend is kept updated on the next steps for students.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Beno.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Prime Minister for his words on anti-Semitism? What happened at Bondi Beach was an atrocity. But words of solidarity are not enough. We know the evil we face. Islamic extremism is a threat to Western civilization. It abuses our democracies and subverts our institutions. It is incompatible with British values. So it is not enough just to protect Jewish communities. We must drive Islamic extremism out of this country. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to send my best wishes to our armed forces, to the emergency services, and to everyone who will be working over Christmas. And I would also like to take this opportunity to wish you, Mr. Speaker, the House staff, and all members of this House, including the Prime Minister, a very Merry Christmas. Mr. Speaker, it is the Prime Minister's second Christmas in Downing Street, and by his own admission, he's not in control. He says nothing happens when he pulls the levers. Does he blame himself or the levers?
Mr. Speaker, I'll just set out what we've achieved this week, Mr. Speaker. We're setting out our Violence Against Women and Girls strategy tomorrow. That is me specialist support for abuse victims and the 999 calls experts.
Sorry, Prime Minister. I expect better from you. Ex-serving officer, we expect the standards of a good officer. Prime Minister.
The next lever was 500 jobs protected at Grangemouth. Partnering with INEOS to safeguard the plant's future. Next lever was Erasmus scheme, which is being announced later on today from January 2027. The next lever, Mr. Speaker, the Employment Rights Bill, became law. The biggest uplift in workers' rights in a generation. I've got a whole more list, Mr. Speaker. I could go on for a very long time.
Not sure exactly what that had to do with the question, Mr. Speaker. The fact is the Prime Minister promised economic growth, but the only thing that's grown is his list of broken promises. He promised to reduce unemployment, but yesterday unemployment hit its highest level since the pandemic. It has gone up every single month since he came into office. Why is that?
Mr. Speaker, the facts are these: 350,000 more people in work this year. We've got the lowest inactivity rate for 5 years. We are taking a number of measures to address this, particularly with the young unemployed. I would remind them that under their watch, unemployment averaged 5.4%.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what planet the Prime Minister is living on, but unemployment has gone up every single month under him. Youth unemployment, record levels. Graduate recruitment, lowest ever. He promised that he wouldn't increase taxes on working people, but he has. Last year, he increased national insurance. Last month, he froze income tax thresholds. So will the Prime Minister finally be honest and admit he broke his promise on tax?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud that in the budget we had record investment into our public services. We stabilised the economy and we bore down on the cost of living. They voted against all those measures. But, Mr. Speaker, it is the season of goodwill. Let me congratulate the Leader of the Opposition. She's broken her own record since last week. Last week, 21 former Tory MPs had walked away to reform. She's broken that record because this week it's gone to 22. The former Vice Chair has now gone. So the question is, who's next? Now, it's hard to name anyone. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to name anyone because according to the Shadow Transport Secretary, the Shadow Cabinet is full of, he says, non-entities. That's you lot. He should know.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is talking about non-entities as he looked at his cabinet. A bunch of turkeys, they could fit right in a Burton Matthews factory. And he is one to talk. Last week, his MPs were calling him a caretaker Prime Minister. After what he's done to the economy, they should be calling him the Undertaker Prime Minister. Let's look at what else he's promised. The Prime Minister gave his word that he would help pubs. Yet they face a 15% rise in business rates because of his budget. Will the Prime Minister be honest and admit his taxes are forcing pubs to close?
Prime Minister.
Speaker, she knows very well that the temporary relief that was put in place during COVID has come to an end. That was the scheme they put in place. We supported it, but it was always a temporary scheme coming to an end. We've now put in place a £4 billion transitional relief. We've also taken other measures, creating hospitality zones, greater licensing freedoms and tackling late payments. We're also bearing down on the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, so more people enjoy a drink or a meal out, freezing rail fares, freezing prescription charges, £150 off energy bills, driving wages up. What did they do in relation to each of those, Mr. Speaker? They voted against each and every one of those measures.
Mr. Speaker, what pubs has he been speaking to? They've been barred from all of them. And let's look at another broken promise. I don't know why they're shaking their heads. It's not my fault they've got nowhere to drown their sorrows. Let's look at another broken promise. He promised to end the doctors' strike. He gave the doctors a 28.9% pay rise. What did he get in return? This morning, they've gone back on strike for the third time. In the middle of winter, in the middle of the worst flu crisis in years. Mr. Speaker, this shouldn't be allowed. We already banned strikes by the police and the army. Why doesn't he put patients first, show some backbone, and ban doctors' strikes?
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear about the strikes. They're dangerous and utterly irresponsible. And my message to resident doctors is don't abandon patients, work with us to improve conditions and rebuild the NHS. But, Mr. Speaker, they left the NHS absolutely on its knees, waiting lists through the roof and confidence absolutely rock bottom. And, Mr. Speaker, I take no lecture from them on industrial harmony. More days were lost to strike action on their watch than any year since the 1980s.
Mr. Speaker, of course he's not going to ban doctor strikes. He doesn't have the baubles. The trade unions didn't just buy him. They can shake their heads all they like. We all know who's running their party, and it's not him. The trade unions didn't just buy him for Christmas, they bought him for life. And this matters for all those people out there facing a difficult new year. The Prime Minister has lost control. It's not the levers that don't work, it's him. He's breaking every promise he has made. He promised to bring down unemployment, it's up. He promised he wouldn't increase taxes, they're up. He promised to end the doctor's strike, they're on strike again. Mr. Speaker, he said his main mission was economic growth, but the economy is shrinking. With a year like that, is it any surprise that all his MPs want for Christmas is a new leader?
Mr. Speaker, we got the Muppets Christmas Carol here. The defections are happening so fast that at Christmas the Leader of the Opposition is going to be left home alone. And the member for Runcorn is clearly dreaming of a white Christmas. But, Mr. Speaker, we know what the Leader of the Opposition wants for Christmas. Her list to Santa is this. Dear Santa, please freeze the minimum wage. Please push hundreds of thousands of kids back into poverty and scrap maternity leave. Merry Christmas from the Tories. Mr. Speaker, what we're bringing is cheaper mortgages, new rights for workers and lifting 500,000 people out of poverty. We've achieved more in 14 months than they achieved in 40 miserable years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Ukraine is facing a fourth Christmas of war and loss. A Ukrainian family I met last week spoke movingly of the help and support that they had received from our community in Newport, but also of the real pain of separation from loved ones still in Ukraine serving near the front line. Will the Prime Minister join me in paying tribute to the bravery of these families and those that support them? And can he also take this opportunity for them in giving the House an update on what more we can do from this government to support our Ukrainian friends?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I heartily agree with her? British families have shown incredible kindness and hospitality. We have been working by way of update with our allies on frozen Russian assets to support Ukrainians in their hour of need. Today, Mr Speaker, I can announce that we're issuing a licence to transfer £2.5 billion from the sale of Chelsea Football Club. That's been frozen, those funds, since 2022. My message to Abramovich is this: the clock is ticking. Honour the commitment that you made and pay up now. And if you don't, we're prepared to go to court so every penny reaches those whose lives have been torn apart by Putin's illegal war.
Sir Ed Davey, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I wish you, everyone in the whole House and the whole country, a merry and peaceful Christmas? And can I join the Prime Minister in expressing our horror at the appalling anti-Semitic terror attacks on Bondi Beach on the first day of Hanukkah? Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and friends of all those who've been killed and injured in this senseless act of violence, and our thoughts with the whole Jewish community. Mr Speaker, I'm sure we've all heard British Jews explain how they no longer feel safe in this country. Many of us have friends who volunteer to put on stab vests and stand guard outside their synagogue, and at Heaton Park in October we saw why. Anti-Semitism is real, it is poisonous. We must all work together to stamp it out. The Board of Deputies have called for a comprehensive government strategy to tackle anti-Semitism. So will the Prime Minister commit to that today and set out what concrete steps he's taking to make sure Jewish people are safe in Britain?
Prime Minister. Well, can I thank him for raising this really important issue, and it is really important that we have actions that match the words that we have expressed in response to these horrific attacks. The actions we've taken so far are increasing the funding for Jewish security up to £28 million. I'm pleased to do that, but I'm sad to do that. Having to pay more money to provide security for people to be at their place of worship and to go to school is a sad thing for this country to have to do. I've ordered a review of protest and hate crime laws to stop protests breeding hatred. We're looking at new police powers to deal with repeat and targeted protests. And we've launched a review and training to tackle anti-Semitism in the NHS. There are other steps that we are talking to the community about taking, but all of those actions have already started.
Fred David.
Thank the Prime Minister for that answer, and I hope he will look at the proposal from the Board of Deputies. I think we can work across this House to end the scourge of anti-Semitism. Mr Speaker, turning to the NHS. Even before today's irresponsible strike by the resident doctors, patients were facing a terrible winter crisis. Thousands have been left on trolleys in hospital corridors for hours, no privacy, no dignity, some even soiling themselves because there was no response. And there's been some tragic cases, Mr Speaker, some people even dying on those trolleys and left undiscovered for hours. And the expectation is that this could get worse. So will the Prime Minister make this his #1 priority to end this crisis with a mass vaccination programme to stop so many people ending up in hospital with this virus, and funding the social care places people need to leave hospital when they're ready?
Can I say how unacceptable the conditions that some are enduring in our hospitals are, and there's no excuse, and it is our #1 priority. On vaccinations, we've had over 17 million patients vaccinated this year. That's an increase on last year, but I want to drive that up again next year because vaccinations make such a difference, both to patients and those who are staffed within the hospitals, and of course we take action on social care. Thank you.
Mother McAvoy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you and all your fantastic staff. Prime Minister, 2025 has been a momentous year for Darlington, Britain's best town, but there is much more to do. I met a lovely woman out door knocking recently, and she works 12-hour night shifts at a care home in the town. Her colleagues are on minimum wage, and many care workers across the town aren't even paid time and a half for working on Christmas Day. Like so many in her profession, she wants the system fixed not for herself but for her residents. I believe that that starts with radical improvements to care workers' terms and conditions. Prime Minister, this workforce of mostly women do essential, skilled and exhausting work without fuss, fanfare and still without fair pay. They deserve better. What can I tell the Darlington care workers will improve for them by this time next year at Christmas?
Can I thank her? Carers are incredibly skilled workers. My sister is one of them, and I'm very proud of them and her for their invaluable work. I'm pleased that we've increased the carers' allowance earnings limit by the largest amount since it was introduced, and we're providing £500 million to fund the first ever fair pay agreement through the Employment Rights Act, which was passed yesterday to make sure care workers are properly recognised and rewarded.
Stephen Flynn.
It is indeed the season of goodwill, so with that in mind, I don't intend, it is indeed the season of goodwill, so with that in mind, I don't intend on asking the Prime Minister about his broken promises on energy bills, the 1,000 jobs being lost in the North Sea, the fact that Peter Mandelson is still a member of the House of Lords. I won't even ask him about the chaos that is engulfing the Labour Party, his budget and indeed his own leadership. No, Mr Speaker, I simply want to wish the Prime Minister Happy Christmas. How does he intend on spending his final one in Downing Street?
Prime Minister.
I'm going to get an update from the Chancellor on Grangemouth in just a minute. He's clearly not interested in Grangemouth. You would have thought on a day like this that he'd want to welcome the £120 million of investment into Grangemouth. It's a landmark investment protecting 500 jobs and hundreds more across Scotland's supply chain. And he can't even bring himself to mention it. Mr Speaker, that's on top of the Typhoon defence jobs in Edinburgh and shipbuilding jobs on the Clyde. And after decades of SNP rule, they're totally out of ideas. They can't even welcome the Grangemouth news. Scotland deserves change next year with Anna Sawa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In 2020, my constituents, John and Karen Rowlands, lost their son Andrew in a road collision. He was just 18 years old and a passenger. Like too many others, Mr Speaker, the driver of the car should never have been on the roads. He was underage, unlicensed and uninsured and bought the car on social media using cash. Can the Prime Minister tell me how bereaved families like the Rowlands can have a meaningful say on our road safety strategy and ensure the right checks are in place to prevent future tragedies?
Prime Minister.
Can I send, I'm sure, condolences of the whole House to Andrew's family. It's an awful case, and every life that's lost to dangerous driving is a tragedy. In terms of the range of measures that we're taking to protect young drivers, they include penalties for driving uninsured and unlicensed, and measures to reduce the risks posed by unroadworthy vehicles. And in terms of influence of her and her constituents, I'll be very happy to set up an appropriate meeting for her constituents.
Ben Maguire.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for confirming a Cornwall-only devolution deal since my last PMQ. In 1988, over 20,000 North Cornwall constituents were poisoned by the South West Water Authority. In a recent BBC documentary, strong suggestions were made of a cover-up by the Thatcher government. None of those victims have ever been properly compensated, and today South West Water poison my constituents with impunity with their constant sewage dumping. Christmas swims across Cornwall have been cancelled again, while constituents like William Howes in Padstow have been hospitalised. Wow. Will the Prime Minister please meet with me to finally deliver justice to all water poisoning victims and make sure this never happens again?
Prime Minister.
Well, it is right to remind us of what was a terrible scandal, and I will ask the Water Minister to meet him and his constituents to discuss it. He and the public are right to be furious that companies are still polluting our seas, lakes and rivers. Mr Speaker, we've taken action banning bonuses for bosses in 6 polluting companies, changing the law so that those who hide sewage bills can be locked up, and issuing almost £30 million in fines to clean up waterways. We're clearing up the mess that the party over there left, like everything else.
Todia Bance.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The West Midlands
Midlands car industry is world famous, and this government backs our automotive sector. We got a US trade deal, and when criminals shut down production at Jaguar Land Rover, we back the supply chain. Brilliant companies like JH Lavender in my constituency. What a contrast with the member for Clacton, not here as usual, who said, "I predict Jaguar will now go bust," and they deserve to. Would the Prime Minister agree with me that the workers of the West Midlands and the entire country need a Labour government and can't afford the economic vandalism of Reform UK?
Apparently the leader of Reform's in the lounge. I know he likes an early getaway at Christmas to get to his place in France. But Mr. Speaker, he lobbied for economic sanctions against his own country when he was in the United States, with no thought for British workers and zero patriotism. The difference is our US deal secured the best deal for the car industry, providing certainty for the workforce at JLR. And there's more good news, Mr. Speaker, for the car industry this week, because Nissan is now building its new electric Leaf in Sunderland. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Sir Julian Smith.
Compliment the Prime Minister on the work he's done on Ukraine and wish him well over Christmas on that topic. Mr. Speaker, pubs are at the centre of rural communities in areas such as North Yorkshire. They are under more pressure than ever before. Could I urge the Prime Minister and the Government to look again at the rates issue and to look at how to relax the transitional relief for those pubs, many of which are otherwise going to close?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is an important sector. At the heart of this challenge is the end of the temporary relief that was put in place during COVID. And that's why we put in place the transitional measures and investing £500,000 into a hospitality support scheme to help rural pubs diversify. On issues like the cost of living, we've taken a number of measures to make it easier for people to go out and enjoy themselves in pubs, and we'll always look at what measures we can put in place to support pubs.
Ed Robertson.
Speaker, people across Lichfield, Burntwood and the villages will be looking forward to a very happy new year, not least because of this government's commitment to the Midland Rail Hub project, which will revolutionise rail travel across the West Midlands and further afield. We are all really eager to see a better service between Lichfield and Birmingham as soon as possible, though. So will the Prime Minister join my campaign for a more regular service on the cross-city line? And can he confirm that rail commuters will benefit from frozen fares because of this Labour government?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the hub means more regular services for up to 15 stations across the region. That's vital after the Lichfield to Birmingham service was slashed under the previous government. The construction will create around 13,000 jobs, and we're delivering them as quickly as possible, with Network Rail awarding design contracts this week. Mr. Speaker, we're also freezing rail fares. That's the first time that that's happened in 30 years, saving his constituents about £90 a year on the commute to Birmingham.
Andrew Snell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the ghost of Christmas past scoops up the Prime Minister from his slumber in number 10 this year, I wonder what he will show him on Christmas Eve. Maybe it would be the devastated family farmer putting up the for sale sign on the yard, or the children hugging each other as their independent school closes, or any of the 100,000 hospitality workers who have lost their jobs, or the millions of families that are trying to work out how they will pay their tax bill to fund the ever-growing welfare state. So is it no wonder that the ghost of Christmas future has given up on this Prime Minister? And all that is left is for him to get his bag of coal from Santa and his P45 from his own MP.
Happy Christmas. I saw that the honourable member was asking the public to suggest questions for today. I actually put in a bid, Mr. Speaker. I filled it in. I assume he missed the question, I assume. I said he should ask about the 6,000 well-paid, high-skilled jobs we've secured in his constituency, building typhoons. Thanks for an £8 billion deal with Turkey. I'm disappointed that he didn't want to talk about good, well-paid jobs in his constituency secured by this Labour government.
Mr. Speaker, just days before Christmas, Park heartbroken Derbyshire families and staff have learnt that the Reform-led council are closing 8 care homes, including Rowthorne in Amber Valley. And that comes just days after learning that the council's cost-saving claims were entirely fabricated. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that when Reform talk about Doge, what they're actually talking about is cutting vital public services? And will he join me in urging Derbyshire County Council to think again?
Well, it is deeply concerning to hear about the closure of 8 Derbyshire care homes by the Reform-led Derbyshire Council. It will be hugely concerning to residents and to their families, while we're making £3.7 billion of extra funding available to councils to fund social care. And let me say to the member for Clacton, relaxing in the lounge, Christmas is a time for forgiveness. It's never too late to apologise to former classmates.
Timothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labour's tax rises mean lower growth and higher unemployment, and the reason for the tax rises is government spending. The Prime Minister personally promised the country to limit spending increases to £9.5 billion a year. So what mandate did he have in his first 2 budgets to increase annual spending 15 times faster by £146 billion?
Mr. Speaker, we had a mandate to change because we inherited major challenges across the country. If only he had done something to solve these problems when he was working in Downing Street. He left a complete mess.
Neil Duncan Jordan.
Mr. Speaker, over the past few weeks, I've been contacted by a number of constituents who work in the health and care sector because they are concerned about the proposed changes to the rules surrounding indefinite leave to remain. These individuals came to this country to do a job we asked them to do, and then we decided to change the rules halfway through the process. Does the Prime Minister agree that if we are to be a proud, rules-based nation, going back on our word to people who are contributing to our society and building lives here is not only just unfair, it's also profoundly un-British?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're replacing a failed settlement system with one that is fair and recognises contribution. It is right to apply more stringent controls, and we're currently consulting on the right approach. I do recognise the huge contribution of those working in our NHS and will not change the rules for those who already have settled status.
Sir John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jimmy Lai is 79 and is a British citizen. He has already been in prison in Hong Kong for 5 years, simply for being a journalist. If he receives a further sentence on the 12th of January, he is likely to die in prison. Will the Prime Minister make clear that his visit to Beijing can only go ahead if Jimmy Lai is released?
Prime Minister.
I thank him for raising this really important case, and as he knows, we continually raise this with our counterparts and will continue to do so. And I condemn the conviction. Obviously, we await the sentence, but it's absolutely clear that he's been targeted by the authorities, and this is wrongful, and I call it out. It is important that we continue to engage so that we can raise this issue with those counterparts.
Sam Carling.
In September, a National Secular Society report highlighted alarming numbers of extremist religious organisations in the UK from various faith traditions, expressing hideous views about women, including promoting female genital mutilation and denying the existence of marital rape. Many of these are registered as charities and therefore eligible for various tax exemptions, as well as thousands or even millions of pounds in public money through gift aid. So will the Prime Minister, as part of the government's mission to halve violence against women and girls, support my campaign for a review of charity law and regulation so that we can make sure the UK taxpayer isn't funding extremism and hate?
Can I thank him for raising this really important issue? The scale of violence and abuse suffered by women and girls is a national emergency, and the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy will be published tomorrow, setting out concrete steps in order to deal with this. We've already taken action to protect victims, including placing domestic abuse specialists in the first 5999 control rooms, and we're launching a new national policing centre to coordinate police response and target these crimes. I'll make sure that ministers look specifically at the issues that he's raised.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Minister of State for Justice declined a meeting with the representatives of a number of hunger strikers in prison at the present time. These are all remand prisoners. They're not convicted of anything. Since then, a further prisoner, Kazam, has been taken to hospital, as have others. Many people are very concerned about the regular breaches of prison conditions and prison rules in respect to these hunger strikers. Will he make arrangements for the Ministry of Justice to meet representatives of the hunger strikers to discuss these breaches of the conditions that they're experiencing at the present time?
Prime Minister.
Well, he will appreciate there are rules and procedures in place in relation to hunger strikes, and we're following those rules and procedures.
Abdissam Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. England is the only country in the world with a fully privatised and monopolised water system, and it's broken. My constituents in Sheffield Central, like many across the country, continue to face burst water pipes, polluted rivers and rising bills, all while the Chief Executive of Yorkshire Water has taken 1.3 million in bonus payments through an offshore company, and that's on top of her very healthy 660,000 salary. Will the Prime Minister assure the House that the forthcoming water white paper will have stronger accountability and put public interest first before bosses' bonuses, and more importantly, will it consider bringing the essential public service back into house?
Prime Minister.
Yes, is the simple answer to that question. And our decisions are already holding polluters to account. Mr. Speaker, new severe fines, banning bonuses, and a record 83 criminal investigations have been launched. We've also secured over £100 billion of investment to upgrade infrastructure to deliver better services to constituents.
Final question, David Mundell.
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday at Arlington Cemetery, I will have the honour of joining family and friends of many of the victims of the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie on the 21st of December 1988, the worst terrorist atrocity in the United Kingdom. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that, especially after all these years, those family and friends deserve both truth and justice? And will the United Kingdom government continue to do all it can to bring about that outcome?
Prime Minister. Can I thank him for raising this? And nobody could forget the shocking scenes at Lockerbie. And I know the huge impact it's had on the community that he grew up in, where people have responded with such compassion and strength. He has rightly stood by their search for justice and truth for all of the intervening years, and I pay tribute to that. All of our thoughts remain with the families and friends of all the victims who deserve truth, and I urge the Scottish authorities to consider the points that he raises.
We'll let the front benches change over.
Well, that was the final Prime Minister's questions of the year. We're going to jump straight to Westminster Hall, where our political editor, Christopher Hope, has been watching Prime Minister's questions from right there inside the House of Commons. Chris, what are your takeaways?
Well, Tom, very quickly, like so much of the year dominated by the 5 MPs of Reform UK, Nigel Farage sitting opposite me in the press gallery, just waving his hands, grimacing, looking upset. The most stinging attack on Reform, and there were 4 of them I counted in that 36-minute PMQs, was on Sarah Pochin, the MP for Runcorn. The Prime Minister said that the MP for Runcorn is clearly dreaming of a white Christmas. Now, that refers back to Sarah Pochin's concern about DEI and the way it means that lots of adverts have mixed race couples on TV, and she thinks that doesn't represent Britain. But that is quite a thing to say about the MP for Runcorn, Sarah Pochin. It goes towards a racist claim about her, which I'm sure she would dispute. We're trying to get a response from her to now, and that'll be playing on. That issue will be out on GBNews this afternoon. Was a half a joke from the Prime Minister. He said at the beginning, if mysterious friends come from the East bearing gifts for Nigel Farage, it's time to report them to the police. That, of course, is obviously throwing back to Nathan Gill and the bribery, finding guilty of taking bribes for questions or dealing with Russia in a way which was broke the law. Farage, though, looked unhappy. He said he wasn't going to be in the chamber because PMQs will be rigged again by the Labour Party, therefore I won't be going. Other areas very quickly. Kevin Badenoch, less sure of herself, I thought, in today's PMQs, talking about the levers aren't working for the Prime Minister, unemployment up, doctor strikes, tax thresholds frozen, pubs in trouble from the rates. Now, the PM did have things to say on that. He said, we're helping out Grangemouth with a big bailout this morning. The Erasmus scheme could be coming back for students to go over to Europe. And the Employment Rights Bill became law last night after getting through the Lords. So I think that was a score draw. And just finally, some things to watch out for in the new year. The government's going to start to try and transfer £2 billion of money from the sale of Chelsea to Ukraine. That's not before time. That's been stuck in a legal process. And also the issue there of Jimmy Lai, who's been jailed in Hong Kong. Now, we're pretty sure the PM is going to China towards the end of next month. That will be a major issue, and you heard there from a senior Tory, John Whittingdale, said, you shouldn't go, surely, PM, if Jimmy Lai's in prison. The PM didn't say that. He made clear he wants to open talks with China, even on the issue of the Jimmy Lai's wrongful imprisonment.
Chris, thank you from a very festive-looking Westminster Hall. We are joined in the studio today by the Labour MP for Hales Owen, Alex Ballinger, and Shadow Health Minister Luke Evans. Thank you, as ever, for sending in your questions, and we love it particularly when you tell us where you're from. I'm going to start with Labour's Alex Ballinger. Freddie from Birmingham asks, which of the following is most to blame for the UK's problems? Trump's tariffs, Brexit, or the Tories? And I think what Freddie is getting at is that it's everybody's fault that there's no growth, which you promised at the election in the British economy, but you blame everybody rather than owning it yourself.
Well, hello, Freddie. Thank you for the question. I think it's almost universally accepted that the inheritance we had last year was appalling. Unlike 1997, when public services were broken but the economy was in good shape, or 2010, where public services were gold standard but after the financial crash the economy was in a bad shape. Last year we inherited public services that were completely broken and an enormous amount of debt and a really struggling economy. So absolutely the Conservatives have their fair share of blame. But things are not as bad as everybody makes out. Actually, the economy is doing pretty well. We are growing faster than was predicted last year by the OBR. At the first half of the year, we were growing faster than any other country in the G7. We've just had inflation figures out this morning, which are really good. We're actually seeing a fall in the cost of food, drinks and clothing. Now, it's falling from a high height, but that's good news. That's good news about what the Labour government delivered in the budget. And I think people should recognise that.
Inflation is still over 3%. In the United States, there's currently a crisis of affordability because they think inflation might get to just over 3%. I mean, this is some context that perhaps needs injecting into the conversation. We've had Jason writing in saying Starmer claims record investments, but nobody in this country feels it. When you say inflation is down, but people can still see the prices in their shop going up, perhaps going up at a less fast pace, but still going up, people feel worse off.
Absolutely, the cost of living is a problem, and that is why one of the three priorities that Rachel Reeves talked about at the budget was tackling the cost of living. Now, we've got some good news today, but of course that comes on the back of difficult news elsewhere, and we're nowhere near the 11% inflation that we had under the Conservatives. But there were lots of cost of living measures the Chancellor announced, things like £150 off energy bills, things like raising the minimum wage, keeping the triple lock for pensioners so that their pensions will be rising faster than inflation or wages or anything else. We're doing everything we can to tackle the cost of living, and I appreciate there's still a long way to go, but there's been some real progress made.
Luke Evans, you would accept that you left them the new government with an absolutely terrible inheritance, a massive job to turn around the economy that they inherited
Well, let's
from you guys.
look at the figures. So actually, we talk about the fastest growing economy. It was handed over as the fastest growing economy.
There was a recession in
except
2023.
Inflation was at 2% and it's now 3.2%. Unemployment's gone up by 20%. So it was 4.1 where we handed over. It's now 5.1 under this Labour government. And we've seen the tax burden go up considerably under the Labour government. We've seen £66 billion worth of tax cuts. And if you agree with what Alex has said, it was the Chancellor herself, after the last budget, said, I do not need to put up any more taxes. I have wiped the state clean. And then we see a £26 billion tax increase come through. And then you're seeing the toxic concoction on businesses, which is why the economy has actually shrunk in the last quarter. So it's all very well talking about growth, but actually it shrunk. That's the latest data.
But they are putting taxes up. I think anybody would acknowledge that. However, they are also going to take 500,000 kids out of poverty. Are you really going to go into that next election and say, well, we're going to put them back into poverty because we're going to reintroduce the two-child benefit cap, which they
scrapped? Well, if poverty was the driving force, why would you, number one, not do it your first moral mission and actually remove the whip when you first come into government, number one? Number two is, what happened with winter fuel? That pushed, by the government's own research, 100,000 people into relative poverty and 50,000 into absolute poverty. So it hit both poverty markets. So you can't have it both ways from this government. It made those choices. It's not on a moral mission.
And you are making the choice
it's trying to get through.
Hundreds of thousands more kids into poverty if you win the election. That's what the Prime Minister
if you don't have a job,
alleged today.
You don't have any funding at all, and that's the biggest thing that we're seeing at the moment. You can have all the employment rights you want, you can have all the support you want, but if you don't have a job, you can't look after your family or your community, and that is the biggest indicator on health, on outlook, on prospects, and that's what I'm worried about.
Well, that raises a lot of big questions. We'll get stuck into so much more. Many of your questions still flooding in, gbnews.com/your say. We'll get to it all after a very short break.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A dull, damp day for many. Some heavy bursts of rain again in the west. We have a Met Office yellow warning in place for parts of South Wales and southwest England. It's actually up to the northwest where the culprit for today's rain is. Deep area of low pressure, lots of isobars across the UK, and these weather fronts gradually pushing in. The heaviest pulses of rain, South Wales and southwest England, where it has been very wet recently, so this extra rain may cause further travel disruption. Pulses of rain working back into the east of Northern Ireland and up into southern Scotland. There will be some brightness across northern Scotland. The rain fairly patchy over eastern England, so many here having a dry afternoon. Temperature-wise, still a bit above average, mostly 9 to 11 degrees. But it will be quite a wet evening, particularly across the south and the west, but the rain extending up through the central belt of Scotland during the evening time as well. Parts of northeast Scotland still dry at this stage. Some showers coming into the northwest. Belfast should be turning drier as we go through the late afternoon into the evening. The rain pulling away from here, but lingering in Wales and southwest England. Again, heavier bursts here. The rain more patchy over the Midlands and eastern England. Parts of East Anglia and the southeast may well stay dry into the evening time, but slowly overnight that rain will be pushing its way further eastwards. Another Met Office yellow warning in place across other parts of southern England. So a lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. Generally, though, becoming quite a bit drier as we go through the night. So most places will start Thursday dry with temperatures at 6 and 7 degrees Celsius. As we go through Thursday, well, there is another pulse of rain. Yes, it starts dry in many areas. There'll be some sunshine for parts of Scotland, but then further rain, again, heavy rain coming in and again falling on ground that is very, very soggy. That is likely to cause further disruption. More Met Office warnings are in place. You can check out those Met Office weather warnings on the Met Office website and app.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should be cautious on the A9 Dornoch Bridge due to strong winds. In Cumbria, the A595 northbound is closed after a collision. Stockton-on-Tees A19 southbound has a broken-down vehicle closing one lane. City of Stoke-on-Trent's A50 eastbound faces congestion with 10-minute delays. In Buckinghamshire, a collision on the M40 northbound has one lane closed, expected to clear by 1:25 this afternoon. And on the trains, Cross Country has no services between Newton Abbot and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's now 10 to 1 and we're still joined in the studio by the Labour Member of Parliament for Hales Owen, Alex Ballinger, and the Shadow Health Minister for the Conservatives, Luke Evans.
So let us go to Andrew. Great question from Andrew, even though he doesn't tell us where he's from. That will get better, I'm sure. Right, Starmer and his nonsense about smashing the gangs. They keep flooding in and Starmer just keeps burying his head in the sand. That was just a line to get you through the election campaign. It was worthless.
Well, of course, I don't accept that characterisation. And I'll bring us back to what Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, said about a month ago, which was to really bear down on the pull factors that are encouraging people to come to the UK, and bear down on those things that allow us to deport people out of the country that are here without any right to be here. And she announced a whole range of measures around the Danish-style immigration system that makes it much more difficult to get citizenship here, that changes the amount of time people have to return back to their own countries.
But those measures don't seem to be working. A lot of your colleagues, just a couple of days ago, were tweeting and bleating about how wonderful it is there haven't been any small boats. Just as those small boats started to come back, hundreds and hundreds over the last couple of days, because the weather has got a bit calmer in the Channel. Isn't it the case that actually the gods of the weather seem to have more control over who comes here rather than your Home Secretary?
There's lots of factors, and I'm not going to pretend that it's solved everything. But in the time since the Home Secretary made that announcement, there have been just over 700 people that have come to the UK on small boats. That might sound like a lot. That's about half as many that came in the same period last year, and it's a quarter as many that came in 2022.
We had 3 weeks of no arrivals because the weather was terrible. As soon as the weather got better, they started coming again. Those 700 have come in the last 3 days alone.
There's lots of factors behind it. The Prime Minister is also working hard on reforming the interpretation of the ECHR. There was an announcement alongside the Danish Prime Minister earlier last week, and we think we're going to change the law so that the interpretation the British courts are making allows us to deport people much more quickly.
Luke Evans from the Conservatives, you enabled this to happen. It happened under your watch. So they don't trust you. They don't think the government is sorting it out, and that is why reform are in the lead, and you should both be worried about that.
Yeah, of course we should be worried about it, but reform don't have an answer of how it's joined up to be done.
Well, you didn't, they didn't. They might as well
we've
give them a
learned the
shot.
hard way, and it's often missed in this. If it was so simple to sort, it would have been done by the last government and this government. And what you're seeing is this government have come in, tried to do some of the plans, and actually things have got worse. Remember, we've already had 39,000 this year, which is more than the last year before. And under this Labour government, it's 62,000 people coming across. That's within the 18 months. So the slogan of "Smash the Gangs" it hasn't had any desired effect. And we're hearing about going across to speak to Europe. It's gone very quiet now. Nothing's come out of that because it becomes a talking shop. You need to do something definitive, which is why the Conservatives have put forward this plan to step out the ECHR, for example, to make a difference.
Alex Ballinger, be honest. The Danish model is tough. I give you that. Shabana Mahmood made a very tough speech. Loads of Labour MPs absolutely hate it and won't let her anywhere near the Danish model to import here.
So some Labour MPs are uncomfortable with it. I think that still means it's the right thing to do. No, I'm not uncomfortable with it at all. I think this is exactly the right thing that we need to do to get something that is a top issue for the British public sorted out. And I believe and I trust that what we're doing is going to reduce the numbers. Now, it's not solved overnight, but as I said, in that last month, since we've made that announcement, there has been a reduction in the number of people that are crossing.
OK, well, we keep on counting those numbers with our dedicated reporter down in Dover. But thank you to our panel, and indeed thank you to you for watching. This has been PMQs Live. I'm next. We'll see you, when is it?
7th of January, I will be back with the politicians. Merry Christmas from me now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A dull, damp day for many. Some heavy bursts of rain again in the west. We have a Met Office yellow warning in place for parts of South Wales and southwest England. It's actually up to the northwest where the culprit for today's rain is. Deep area of low pressure. Lots of isobars across the UK, and these weather fronts gradually pushing in. The heaviest pulses of rain, South Wales and southwest England, where it has been very wet recently, so this extra rain may cause further travel disruption. Pulses of rain working back into the east of Northern Ireland and up into southern Scotland. There will be some brightness across northern Scotland. The rain fairly patchy over eastern England, so many here having a dry afternoon. Temperature-wise, still a bit above average, mostly 9 to 11 degrees. But it will be quite a wet evening, particularly across the south and the west, but the rain extending up through the central belt of Scotland during the evening time as well. Parts of northeast Scotland still dry at this stage. Some showers coming into the northwest. Belfast should be turning drier as we go through the late afternoon into the evening. The rain pulling away from here, but lingering in Wales and southwest England. Again, heavier bursts here. The rain more patchy over the Midlands and eastern England. Parts of East Anglia and the southeast may well stay dry into the evening time, but slowly overnight that rain will be pushing its way further eastwards. Another Met Office yellow warning in place across other parts of southern England. So a lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. Generally, though, becoming quite a bit drier as we go through the night. So most places will start Thursday dry with temperatures at 6 and 7 degrees Celsius. As we go through Thursday, well, there is another pulse of rain. Yes, it starts dry in many areas. There'll be some sunshine for parts of Scotland, but then further rain, again, heavy rain coming in and again falling on ground that is very, very soggy. That is likely to cause further disruption. More Met Office warnings are in place. You can check out those Met Office weather warnings on the Met Office website and app.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed boy.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the